Welcome to Short Takes on Big Ethics and Compliance Issues. I'm Susan Frank Divers, a consultant to Athena, and I'm delighted today to have Erica Salmon Byrne, who is the Chief Strategy Officer and Executive Chair of Ethisphere. Erica has nearly 20 years of insights into what makes the world's most ethical companies' ethics programs effective, and she's here to share some of those insights. So Erica, let's dive in with rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Capturing the hearts and minds of middle managers is essential for a strong ethics and compliance program. True? False? Maybe?
100%, 1,000% true, Susan. They are the linchpin around which everything else you're going to do is going to spin. Hotline
call data is the best source of insight into the health of a company's ethics and compliance program.
False. No one source of data is going to be your best source of insights. You've got to pile them all on top of each other.
Great. 3, one of the biggest mistakes ethics and compliance teams make is not doing a root cause analysis when they do a misconduct investigation.
100% true, Susan. It is absolutely one of the best ways you can try to get a little bit proactive with your program.
Good. Well, thanks, Erica, for the rapid fire. Let's jump into the discussion. So I know that you have a tremendous amount of experience and data on the topic of what makes an effective program. And can you tell us more about the critical role that middle managers play in shaping ethical culture?
Yeah, it would be my pleasure, Susan. Thank you so much. It is one of those things that I always encourage compliance officers to think about their own managers and the amount of influence that manager has on individual employee behavior. We are constantly looking for examples of what it means to get ahead inside our organizations. We're looking for ideas of what success means, and those come more often than not from the person who I am interacting with on a day-to-day basis. So if you think about the role that managers play that way, it just becomes very obvious that these really are a group of people that you have to spend a lot of time thinking about. And particularly because, unfortunately, we still have too many managers out there who were promoted to manage because they were really good at the job they were doing before and not because they really know how to lead people. So making sure that you have a strong working relationship with your team in human resources that is going to allow you to access the kinds of content that this group is getting. And you can work together with those HR partners to try to help managers understand the critical role that they play. And that's particularly important, Susan, when it comes to concern raising. So what our data tells us here at Ethisphere is employees are 6 times more likely to go to their manager with a concern than they are to call the hotline. So that's self-reported employee data. When we ask employees, did you see something and have you said something? First off, only half of them said something, so that's a problem for a different day. But of those, that 50% that did say something, for every one employee that said they called the hotline or the helpline, 6 of them self-reported that they went to their managers. And so that just gives you a tiny, glimmer of just how important your managers are to an effective compliance program.
And that brings up very nicely the next question, which is about the effectiveness of hotline data. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So the first question you have to ask yourself, Susan, is am I effectively capturing proxy reports in my hotline data? And unfortunately, for too many companies, the answer to that is no. So what they have in their hotline system, their case management system, is things that came into the hotline. They don't necessarily have things that came into HR. They don't have things that came into a manager, unless they've done a real campaign to get managers to alert the team, the relevant team, to the concern that has been raised. And they've made that as easy as possible. So the first question to ask yourself is, am I even tracking proxy reports? Hopefully the answer is yes. If you are, do I have roughly a 6-to-1 ratio of proxy reports? Because that's what our data tells us you should see. If you've got those things, then you've got reliable hotline data. If you don't have those things, then what you're tracking is just a fraction of what's actually happening inside your organization. But regardless, so that's sort of question number 1. The second thing is, you and I know well, Susan, that any one data source is just a point in time. So, over-reliance on a single piece of data to tell you about the performance of your program, whatever that piece of data might be, is a really bad idea, particularly in today's day and age, right? The technology has made it so much easier for us to data layer. And it really is about figuring out, how do I take all of these different data sources, vendor data, third-party due diligence data, speed to completion of training data, one of my favorites. Not training completion data, mind you, because all that means is that you harassed somebody enough that they finally took their training. But if you can get a sense of like, in that window, how quickly did I take my training, right? That's going to give you a little bit of a sense of how that employee feels about the experience of interacting with the compliance program inside your organization. So pull all those data sources together, layer them on top of each other, and you'll start to get a really well-informed picture of what's happening with your program.
That's a great explanation of being careful with your hotline data and putting it in the right context. Yep. Well, let's turn to the last one, which is tell us more about the importance of root cause analyses after you do a misconduct investigation, and that I think you're seeing that isn't as common as it should be with companies.
Yep. This I think, and some of it, Susan, is where a lot of the people who are doing investigations may not be trained in how to do a good root cause. But if you think about what happens in the course of an investigation, it is an extraordinary opportunity to figure out why something happened, not just what happened and who was responsible and what is the discipline going to be, right? We're very good at those things. Although, as an aside, I will say, there's always work to be done on disciplinary calibration, right? Making sure that all the animals are being treated equally, to paraphrase George Orwell. But we're very focused on those pieces of an investigation. What happened? Who was involved? What are we going to do about it? Unfortunately, not enough companies are putting time and energy and effort into systematically thinking about why it happened, right? What was the thing that made this possible? Was it lax controls? Was it poor training? Was it a complicit manager? And by overlooking that piece of it, you set yourself up to recurring problems. As opposed to, if you look at each investigation as an opportunity to ask the question why. And look, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do good root cause. You can do 5 whys, you can do Pareto, you can do fishbone, right? Our friends in safety and quality know how to do good root cause. So if you have a relationship with your safety team, go talk to them about how they do root cause. But think of each investigation as an opportunity not just to punish the people involved, but to make the program and the company better because of what you learned during the course of the investigation. That's the reason why we see root cause analysis in the DOJ guidance. That's the reason why we see root cause analysis in the forthcoming Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act failure to prevent fraud offense that's going into effect on September 1st in the UK, right? The regulators understand that when something goes wrong inside your company, a smart company, a good company, a proactive company is asking why, right? And then they're going and fixing whatever that why might be. The best companies, by the way, are doing root cause on both substantiated investigations and, if applicable, unsubstantiated investigations. So asking themselves, why did this employee think this was a concern, right? Why did this employee raise this issue? Is there something we can learn from the fact that our employee used their voice in this particular context?
That's fascinating. I didn't realize people were doing it on unsubstantiated investigations as well as substantiated.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrific, Erica. I really appreciate your coming on the podcast to do short takes on big questions. And you did an excellent job as always.
Well, thank you, Susan.
Back.
It was a real pleasure chatting with you. I'll come back anytime. Yeah, I love short takes.
Great. Thanks, Erica.